Reminder that on November 12th, the guy who saved my wife's life twice is coming to town. If you want to celebrate, be a part of it with us, it's going to happen down at Roost Chris Pier 5 on the 12th. That's next Saturday night. It's also his birthday. Cake will be served, from what I understand, as well as chocolate mousse. Got a guy here that we haven't had on in a couple of weeks. I gave him a little bye week and a natural bye week as he's on NFL Network and tweeting out at Coach Billick. He joins us, of course, as our WNST.net head coach and partner on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation. We welcome Coach Billick back onto the program. Our defending champion, rise all the boats here for me, Coach. I mean, the Ravens are in peril. They got the Steelers. Roethlisberger may be coming back. The Bengals stink. We're still in this thing, even though it's not going the way we want. 9 wins might win this division, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think you have a number of divisions that, and because of where we are in the AFC to a certain degree, the wild card picture, as I always say, we talk about it all the time. If you're, when you're in the division, for instance, with New England, okay, they're 7-1. No one's going to catch them in the NFC East. Well, that puts Miami and Buffalo and New York Jets in basically the wild card division. So now you are going to compete with all those teams in the AFC West. You're going to compete with the teams in the AFC North. So you kind of move divisions here. Now, fortunately for the Ravens, nothing has separated itself. But obviously you're all about winning the division. But that wild card division is going to be interesting to watch as well.
All right, so Ravens coming off of 4 consecutive losses here. I mean, something that you experience what that feels like in the building. John's feeling the heaviness of it on the bye week, and certainly the season's sort of teetering here that a win over the Steelers, new lease on life. Lost to the Steelers, now you got the Browns, you still got to go into New England, into Pittsburgh, into Cincinnati at the end, and you're bringing it up from the rear instead of from the front. And I would say this, the Bengals didn't look like any great shakes on Sunday morning in London either, but this week really takes on a tone unlike anything we've seen around here. The Steelers and the Ravens fighting for mediocrity, but fighting for a division lead as well.
Yeah, and that's what the NFL is right now, and that can be exciting. 4 games. Yeah, well, you're right. We've lived that. We had and it's not fun. And you're just looking for that one thing. Just God, give me that one thing that'll give us a win. And obviously the fact that it's the Steelers and then Roethlisberger are going to be there. The real pressure is the next week with Cleveland. My God, you can't be the team that loses to the Cleveland Browns. The New York Jets just almost experienced that. I mean, that would be cataclysmic in terms of what's then. And then you got to go to Dallas. I won't say clearly, that's not fair. For many people, the best team in the NFC right now. That was a big win for them to see Dak Prescott come back from double-digit down in the fourth quarter. So that was huge for them. And then you got Cincinnati. So, they're all tough and no bigger than Pittsburgh right now. And right now, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, yeah, it's a Pittsburgh game, so that's always carries a lot with it. But right now, John Harbaugh and the Ravens, we don't care who it is. We just got to get a win some way, somehow.
We've seen this game with Roethlisberger. Is he going to play? Is he not? A couple weeks ago, it was 4 to 6 weeks, right? And then I heard Mr. Rooney say 2 to 6 weeks. And when I heard that, I thought, well, maybe he'll play on Sunday. This would certainly be very Willis Reed of him, right? Like he feels like he relishes this, right?
And Roethlisberger, we've said it many times, and there's no player I love to watch more. He's an elite quarterback. I think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame diva. And we know he's going to drag that leg out there on Sunday. Like, I can barely walk, and then throw for 400 yards. That's just his MO. So I would be shocked if he didn't play on Sunday.
I love when you get all provincial on Baltimore radio, Coach. You call Roethlisberger a diva. Tweet that out. We'll retweet that.
Oh yeah, you'll know we'll get that. And it's great fun too. Last year we saw that where his shoulder is limp as he walks the line of scrimmage, and then he cranks off a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown.
Look, man, you were a part of all of this. You began this. You sort of built this thing as the first guy that actually beat the Steelers in the beginning and sort of put us into that position. But this has been, Hatfield McCoy, for the NFL in the modern era, this has been that kind of a game. And I guess for the Ravens trying to get healthy here at this point in the season, I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks since they started to lose the way they have. And, I guess when you're so over 30 in your roster and in the decision-making. And I don't know that that's by design with Ozzie, but certainly you've been on those retreats with Steve Bisciotti down in Florida in January, knows how it goes. Everybody signed up for this. Everybody signed up for Suggs, Smith, Doomerville, Yonda. That's what you signed up for, and then they all get hurt at the same time. And the first question is, well, are they too old at this point? Were they counting on too many old guys?
Well, we talked about it as the season started, and I love the fact that Steve Smith came back, and obviously what Suggs does and the whole. But you, in the back of your mind, you're going, "Oh boy, I hope this holds up," because Father Time's undefeated. And that's a tough one for this team and what they're counting on in terms of those positions. And then, the early wins, which could have all been early losses. And these current losses could all be wins. That's the nature of the NFL. But you could make a real easy case for the Ravens actually sitting here as an offer. But you could also, without a real fabrication, they could still be undefeated. So when you walk that tightrope of one play, one way or the other, which most teams do, it's a dicey time. And now you're playing a Steeler team that could say the exact same thing. This is a Steeler team that, like everybody, I was going, boy, this team's just going to be unbelievable, absolutely unstoppable. And then, as you know, the injuries happen and whatever, and they too could be looking there. Obviously, Miami was the head scratcher, and New England, with the injuries and all that. Miami was the one that, how the heck did that happen? So we don't know how good Pittsburgh is right now. But the Ravens, you kind of knew. And when you took all those fourth-round picks and moved up to get all those picks in the fourth round, that told me that at least from Ozzie's standpoint, you kind of knew, we got to restock this thing. We're not going to say we're in a rebuilding mode, but that was a lot of moves to get a lot of young players on this team.
He is Coach Billick out on Twitter. He is our head coach on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, as well as SeatGeek, joining us here as he does on a weekly basis. And I know this week you put together your little thematic things as we get to the middle of the season, and you were the offensive guru and the quarterback guy, and we're seeing quarterback play here at all levels and at all ages at this point, where you've got Tom Brady doing it, in the afternoon, and Dak Prescott doing it in the middle of the night. Same thing with Carson Wentz and these young guys. It is an interesting study of quarterbacks and guys that are doing it like Derek Carr and now Matt Ryan coming on, and other people like Joe Flacco that are teetering a little bit right now, and Andy Dalton that are teetering a little bit, and Eli Manning, and some other more veteran guys that aren't having the best season right now.
Well, that's what jumped out at me as I do on Monday mornings, getting ready for my shows that I shoot all day for the NFL Network on Mondays. What struck me was, obviously, Matt Ryan's having a heck of a run here. You're talking about almost 70% completions, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and it got me to thinking. And then Brady having an unbelievable 4-game run, and I'm thinking, we got some pretty good quarterback play going on here. When was the last time we saw 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks having this kind of a run? And you look at Matt Ryan. This is clearly the best 8-game run in his career. In 2012, when they went 13-3, he had a nice run where they had 19. And I don't mean 8 games to start the season. I mean just any 8 games within the body of a season, not lapping over from one season to the next. So I've been scratching around and kind of have fun playing with those numbers. And he had a nice run, 8-game run in 2012 where he had 19 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but he only threw for 2,000 yards. Now, Brady's had some, as you can imagine, with the length of his career, and I'm looking at the 8-game runs for Brady. He had a phenomenal run in 2007 where he had, in 8 games, 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Did it again in 2010. Breeze, who typically can run off great numbers that way, 2011, he had a 19 touchdown, 2 interception, 2,500 yards. Aaron Rodgers, actually, in his, the questionable as Aaron Rodgers has played, you have to remind yourself how good Aaron Rodgers is. He's had 2 runs. In 2014, he had a run of 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and then 2015 came back and had a 19 touchdown, 3 interception run as well. What is interesting is now you look at a guy like Derek Carr, and we all have to love what's going on with the Oakland Raiders. He's on a 17 touchdown, 3 interception run, 66% completion, 2,300 plus yards. So, yeah, we got some quarterbacks that are playing at kind of a mystical level, and Matt Ryan's at the top of the list in terms of, that's what interests me. Well, just how good is this run of Matt Ryan? This is as good a run, these 2,500 on Matt Ryan, where he is right now with the 19 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, over 2,000 yards, 2,600 yards actually. He's on as good a run as we've seen in a while.
Man, we went to sleep on him, right? I mean, your brother-in-law had him for so many years, and, it felt like it all fell apart at the end, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball. The defense couldn't stop a nosebleed for a couple of seasons. But Matt Ryan was one of the elite guys, a well-thought-of guy, a guy the Ravens wanted before they got Flacco, a guy everybody in the league would have wanted. But for a couple of seasons, it just felt like he wasn't a factor or a part of that conversation because, let's be honest, the team wasn't very good.
Well, let's go back to a conversation you and I had to start the season where there were 3 quarterbacks that had dropped out. Not that it's the final benchmark, but the NFL Network does the top 100 players. And that's voted on by the players, okay? So that gives it a little bit more legitimacy, I think. There were 3 quarterbacks that had dropped out of this year's top 100 going into the season. Matt Ryan, Tony Romo, and Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco and Ryan, because of injury, and people were wondering how they would come back. And Ryan, because like you said, he did not have a good year in his first year with Kyle Shanahan, who now will be the hot name for a head coaching candidate.
And by the way, all those guys are making $25 million a year, right? While they're not in the top 100, right?
Correct. and I question then, okay, well, we're going to see. Now obviously Romo got hurt, so that disqualifies it. Flacco not having the kind of year that would validate why he was out of the top 100, or say, geez, he should have been in the top 100. But Matt Ryan, this is the ultimate, in your face. Okay, I'll show you. I don't believe that there. I think there are like 9 or 10 quarterbacks in that top 100 that he wasn't put in front of, and right now he's kind of going, okay, I'll show you where I belong with this group.
Well, Tom Brady's showing everybody as well, right? I mean, what we're seeing there, it feels otherworldly, right? I mean, you've been out of the league almost a decade, and he was in the league a decade when this is going on and on and on. This isn't supposed to happen. He looks like he could play 5 more years.
Oh, and he wants to, but you're absolutely right. This is the ultimate FU run for the commissioner and everyone else going, okay, let me show you what I did with my 4 weeks off. And how rusty I am, and how okay, let's have some fun.
Well, it's almost like you've helped me. You gave me a month off. I only have to play a 12-game season. My 16th game will be the Super Bowl. It is mine, right?
And don't think for a second that's not a factor. That's not very real. I mean, so as we continue to go forward, and everybody talks about he's undefeated in October, he's Mr. October. He's making a nice. As I said last week on the show. It's beginning to feel, in its heyday, to make the golf analogy, Tiger-esque in that I'm sure you can Vegas bet a line, the Patriots versus the field, versus the entire rest of the NFL, them making the Super Bowl versus the NFL, and could probably get some pretty good odds on that.
When you see them and you as a coach see what they're doing, evaluate their players versus, do they have better players? Because it never feels that way. It feels like they have a better system, truly, because they're not wearing grass skirts. They're not gaudy about statistics. They got guys catching the ball that I didn't hear of 8 weeks ago, guys I've never heard of. And every year they retool. It's not what Marvin has in Cincinnati, which is, they bring in 22 players and 17 of the 22 are the same guys from 5 or 6 years ago. Did the Patriots switch it up? They have guys every year. They have 5 guys that weren't on the team last year, and they're out there making plays. And you're like, what round did they get? What round did Ozzie pass on those guys?
Well, you can look at the entire league. And basically it goes back to, the old adage, it's always easier to make your second million than your first million. When you got things going the way Belichick does, and the authority and the rings in the back, you have the latitude to kind of do whatever you want, maybe take a few more risks that way. I think what we're seeing is, if not a spectacular defense, I don't think there's anybody on that defense that you go, oh boy, we got to double this guy. But they're very sound. They don't give up a lot of big plays. Obviously, they're technically sound and do a great job in terms of matching up with what you do. Offensively now, the offensive line is playing better. When we finally sit here on a Monday after New England has lost, it's probably going to be because the offensive line didn't play well, because that's still kind of the Achilles heel. But you have Brady playing the elite level, a unique tight end combination of Martellus Bennett and Gronkowski like we've never seen before. Enough receivers on the outside. No, they don't have the dominant guy, but Edelman and Amendola are pretty solid. And then just a bludgeoning hammer of a running back in LeGarrette Blount that they can morph themselves into whatever you want. So, when you look at teams around the league right now, you can kind of poke holes in everybody. They're clearly the most balanced. Even the Dallas Cowboys are 6-1. The defense, and Rod Marinelli's doing a great job. But that defense, the Oakland Raider defense, at some point is going to begin to cost them a little bit. The Minnesota Vikings' inability to run the ball, is going to catch up with them. The Atlanta Falcons defense, it could still be suspect. The Pittsburgh Steelers' health and that defense could be suspect. So everybody has a certain, they're really good, but if they're going to they're going to lose, it's going to be because of this. When you look at the New England Patriots outside of the offensive line, and they've played very well because Brady's had a ton of time. I don't know that you can look at them and outside of the line and go, okay, this is why this team will lose.
Coach, we talked about the AFC North being down and maybe 9 wins winning the division. We're sort of used to that in the NFC South. A couple years ago, it looked like somebody was going to win. It was 7 wins or 8 wins. The West of the NFC, I mean, Seattle and Arizona, I think of those two as elite teams and the teams that you're going to see at the end of January. They haven't looked like that to me this year. You're talking about poking holes in teams. You can poke holes on both sides of the Cardinals ball. And with the Seahawks, I don't know how that offense is going to function. And certainly Russell Wilson feels a little beaten up. They play defense there, but they can't score. I'm a little disappointed in both those programs this year thus far.
Yeah, did we not think coming in that the NFC West could maybe have 3 teams in the playoffs? Because Seattle, Arizona, and we thought, boy, LA is really going to step up. I think we all kind of knew San Francisco was going to be very good. And because the NFC South, you didn't know what was going to happen. The East was kind of a big question mark. And even in the North, Minnesota, Green Bay is going to be good. How good is Chicago, which obviously wasn't, and Detroit? So I'm with you. I think the NFC West is the one that is probably the biggest disappointment for a lot of good reasons. Seattle, obviously the offensive line, they don't have the same running game. Russell Wilson's been beat up a little bit. Arizona's they're just not the same team. Carson Palmer's not playing as well. The defense isn't as physical. LA, who knows what's going on in LA, and so, that's probably, and you contrast that to the AFC West, which truly could have 3 teams in the playoffs, with Oakland playing so well, and then obviously Denver with their pedigree and their ability to win at home, and then, Kansas City, who just kind of hangs around and is there and is pretty good.
Andy likes it that way, doesn't he? I mean, he likes it being quiet out in Kansas City.
And you talk about a team that not a lot of deficiencies, and they don't, although they're getting some injuries right now, but they also, what is this team? Where are they really, really good in Kansas City? They're just kind of okay at everything, yet it's enough to be 5-2.
Coach Billick is out on Twitter at Coach Billick, and of course joins us here weekly on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation and SeatGeek as well. Last thing for you, Coach, the tie thing. We've now had a couple of ties. They certainly don't do much for me. I think as a Raven fan, you see the Bengals tie. It sort of feels like a loss. I mean, it feels almost as good as a loss if you had to match up against it. As I said, I'll judge that after Week 17 as to whether the tie was as good as the loss. Probably depends on how the Ravens play against the Bengals over the next 7 weeks. But what are they going to do about it? I mean, this doesn't seem to be the way to end this thing. But as a guy that watches international soccer, I've seen penalty kicks too. I think that kind of stinks. I'm not really enamored with the college system of let's line it up at the 25-yard line and go get them or whatever it's going to be and have kickers decide the game. But the tie's not working for me. I don't know if it's working for the league either.
Yeah, and everybody's got suggestions, and I've heard some of the most lame, dumbass ideas when it comes to tiebreakers as I think I could ever tolerate. No one likes the tie. If not the least, just statistically, when you put it together, it's a pain in the butt to account for it. And this means the general rule is that a tie rarely ever helps you. At the end of the day, it usually hurts you.
So it's like a loss for both teams, kind of, sort of, which is weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah, now occasionally because of the nuance of this and that half game and in a couple instances, and we'll talk about that going forward in terms of where it places you. But for the most part, at the end of the day, it's not quite, but it pretty much is like a loss in that it costs you compared to what it is you're trying to get into. And maybe this will be the exception. I don't know, right, for one thing is you could roll it back going, well, let's do it. We were all abuzz about, well, it's not fair that both teams didn't get a chance to score. Okay, well, if that's your priority and everybody was upset with that, well, we changed the rule and now you got more ties. And not a whole lot of them, I get that. But you're going to have to live with that as opposed to, well, let's go back to the old way. And the first team that scores, that's it. Because the team's going to score. And that would certainly help eliminate that. So, there again, it depends on what you pick your poison. What would you, can you live with the fact that a team didn't have a chance to actually possess the ball to try to in overtime, or do you just want to do away with some of these ties?
Well, I mean, part of this is even you being in the media and talking about it as a decorated coach, and the pundits will get on it. How does it change within the league? Is this something Roger has to spearhead, a pissed-off owner or three, or is it competition committee? I mean, where does it come from? Where does the seed get planted to say it's important that we not have ties to end our football games?
Well, as you know, it takes a while, and the whole idea of let's give, it's not fair that both teams don't get a chance to possess the ball. As you know, it took about 3 or 4 years of that wave of, oh my God, how do we let that happen? That's not fair. It's not competitive. It's not the American way. It took a little while, but it took hold, and after a while, the league said, okay, we hear you. All right, we'll change it. And so it's not going to happen just this year, even though nobody likes it. It's probably going to take a little bit, in my opinion. It's probably going to take a little bit of, you're like you say, a pissed off owner or the coaches and the competition committee going, no, we don't like these. What can we do? And they'll experiment and talk about it. It'll take 2 or 3 years.
We got a lot of good games this weekend, didn't we? I mean, it was fun. It was a great bye weekend to sit around and watch football, even though that 4-hour tie marathon to start my morning over brunch didn't have a real ending to it. Really competitive games. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about flags and sloppiness and referee, and this week we talked about really good finishes, right? I mean, it's...
three overtime games, and that Green Bay-Atlanta game was just phenomenal. I got to, I sit around and watch most of the games this weekend as well. And I mean, we talk about how close this entire league is. But yeah, you're talking about 3 overtime games, and as exciting as they were, and then to see that Green Bay and Atlanta, that was a heck of a game. I really enjoyed watching that game. And so yeah, it's exciting. And then people are, we're all talking about, well, why is the league and the viewership is down? At the end of the year, it's going to be where it is. They'll recognize why, whether it was the matchups, whether, I don't know.
Well, they'll beat up the Cowboys and Eagles Sunday night. And heck, I mean, you had a World Series game going on with Cleveland and the Cubs. You had a hockey game. There was stuff happening every single night. They're putting these football games on in the middle of baseball playoffs, college football, NBA, NHL. I mean, you play more nights a week. Not everybody's going to stop to watch Atlanta and Tampa on a Thursday night. They're just not.
Yeah, and not the least of which the debates and whatever. So
sure.
I'm not going to worry about it. I imagine as great as the play, I haven't seen the numbers yet, but as great as the Major League Baseball, I mean, you're talking about what a great storyline. And I'm not a big baseball fan, but I'm watching the World Series, and yet those numbers, we'll compare those to some of the other football games, and you'll still see football still the number one sport.
There's no doubt about it. Hey, Coach, always appreciate the visit, man. We'll be following you out on Twitter. Happy bye week to you. Hope we bump into each other again next week.
Sounds great.
You got it, Coach Billick, out on Twitter. Here, our WNST partner and head coach on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, as well as SeatGeek, where you can pick up some tickets as well. Coach Billick on Twitter, always candid and glib, and we love having him on the program and being our partner here in Baltimore. WNST, you can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere you are. Morning newspaper ships to you at 7 7 a.m. each and every morning comes to your email inbox, courtesy of Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. We're Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills every Monday night for the best seat in the house competition, as well as our Blazing Wing Eating Challenge. So make sure you're checking that out as well. And don't forget, the man who saved my wife's life twice is coming to town next week for some football, for some fun. Coming over from Germany. We're throwing a party for him on the 12th of November. So I know many of you have inquired and asked about our journey. If you want to stop and say hello, my wife and I and our families will be there as well. It is November the 12th at Roost Chris Pier 5. Happy hour menu out, reduced drink prices, as well as delicious, sizzling steaks and a chopped salad on behalf of my wife as well. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.